How's it going? This is Matt from Moss Epoxies, and today we partnered up with Jessica Moss. It's spelled like the plant. Is this right? Jessica Moss?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, yeah, so we partnered up with Jessica for this really cool project. Check it out. Now it's time to gather up some twigs, branches, tree limbs, entire trees, whatever it may be. Just gotta make sure that the moisture content is very low. Second, you want to get your jig. You can either make one or you could buy the Accurite miter mill from Rockler, and that'll kind of help you hold the logs in position so that as you run them through the bandsaw, it's just an easier process. It's more stable. We're cutting ours at about 1.5 inches. You can make them any length you want depending on the size of your table, but once you get a whole bunch of them cut, you can do a dry run. So 18 by 36, small little table we're making. We're gonna cut our panel and then attach the trim next. Now, we're missing a couple clips because, things happen when you record. So we'll do better next time, I promise. We'll make sure we have all the steps. But basically, you kind of cut your MDF, and then we're ripping some of this ash for the sides, and then we just kind of brad nail and glue that stuff together, which would be the base of the table, basically the frame. And now you're ready to add some glue. So just using regular wood glue, we spread this out with a notch trowel. And you could use epoxy. You can make a thin layer, wait till it starts to gel, set it in. Just take your time placing your pieces, and I think you'll be really happy with it. All right, now it sounds like this song's about to end. I'll tell you what, it is difficult to find really cool royalty-free music. Here's some choices that I had for this section, but they got shot down. However, here they are anyways. And who can forget this gem? And this one just makes you want to dance. This one was Derek's favorite song. He plays it each night before he goes to bed through his white noise machine. But this weekend is my birthday, so we're gonna listen to some 80s hip hop for the rest of this video. All right, so now we're gonna do the seal coat, and we're gonna use Penetrating Epoxy for this. It's kind of thin, it's got a low viscosity, it'll really wick in and seal up all that grain. Basically, each one of those little pores that you see, you can see the pith in some of those pieces. Those are just like funnels for air just to percolate straight up. So we wanna dab on a pretty heavy coat. We did a seal coat with Penetrating Epoxy, then we're doing another seal coat with Tabletop. And now we're ready to apply our black fill. So basically, that's just Tabletop Epoxy with some black acrylic paint. You can use mica powder, you can use alcohol inks, pretty much any compatible pigment works for that. You just want to kind of spread it out. Now, it's going to look kind of sloppy because none of the pieces that we cut were perfect. We just kind of haphazardly zip through there and cut them down. But this next step, using the router with a sled in a 1.5 inch straight bit, will flatten all of that stuff out for you. So you can just build a little jig. You can, YouTube some plans. Tamar from 3x3 Custom has a really cool router sled box plans. There's a lot out there, so you could look up pretty much anybody and get some cool designs for it. But check out that action. So think of this as if you make your side rails completely flat and level, then as you run that sled across, that cutting head on the router is going to surface and flatten that piece of wood. So it takes quite a few passes, makes a giant mess. But once you got it leveled out, you're ready to do a round over on the edges of the wood frame. So we're using, I believe that was either 1/2 inch or it looks like it might be actually 3/4 inch round over, which is pretty big. That gives it like a nice kind of natural flow. We then sand, progressing from 120 to 220. That's to get all the tool marks off of the end grain. We ended up switching out and going to the 6-inch sander. There's a lot to sand down. And also notice the little holes and bubbles and pores in that end grain. So here comes another seal coat, because after you mill it out, you basically took all of the epoxy off the top. So you gotta seal it one more time. And since the outside, the frame is bare wood, you wanna break the surface tension. And that's just kind of wiping epoxy on the outside. That way, whenever the epoxy does overflow on the sides, it doesn't leave giant streaks. So, get your top coat, your seal coat spread out, and then you're ready to, begin the next flood coat. Now, you're gonna see a couple bubbles pop up periodically, and that's pretty normal, especially with that end grain that's, if you didn't do a good seal coat, that's just gonna percolate. So go over it with your torch. You wanna hold the torch about 6 inches above the surface. You don't wanna overwork it, let them rise to the surface. So there's a good example of them popping up. They'll eventually work their way up. After that's set up, you wanna scuff it up with 220 grit sandpaper, and you do your final flood coat, and that is all she wrote. So the legs that we got, we picked them up from Amazon. You just search for coffee table legs, however you want to attach it. They're nothing special, but that's pretty much it. If you guys have any questions, comments, anything like that, please leave them below. Thank you, and have yourself a great day.